Item is, I feel I am more deserving of good things than others because of my race and ethnicity. And for racial entitlement, we did adapt some elements from Campbell's entitlement scale, but with a racial focus. So for additional measures used, we followed up from study 1 by using our adapted version of the Entitlement scale to measure dehumanization. We also created a 13-item measure to look into white nationalist ideologies. An example item is, white American culture is what makes this country great. And we created a 13-item discriminatory policy scale. An example item is, increasing police patrols in racial and ethnic minority communities is necessary to lower crime. So to follow up from the original study of study 1, we wanted to see if racial entitlement is a factor in dehumanization, such as what we saw with narcissistic entitlement. And when we look across the groups of this correlational analysis in which we did control for political ideologies, we do see that racial entitlement does play a role in dehumanization of marginalized groups, but also whites as well, though to a lesser extent. So when we frame entitlement across racial and ethnic lines, we do see that it does cause a much bigger effect size for minority and marginalized groups. And for additional analyses, we did combine our marginalized groups in our dehumanization scale. So the constructs used that we can see in the study are highly intercorrelated, but once again, we wanted to see if the relationship between dehumanization and toxic intergroup attitudes, which we are measuring through endorsement of white nationalist ideologies and discriminatory policies, are mediated by racial entitlement. So when we run a process mediation model, once again controlling for political ideologies, first and foremost, we do see that the relationship between dehumanization has a positive relation with endorsement for white nationalist ideologies. So, but when we mediate this effect by racial entitlement, we see a partial mediation occurring. So this tells us that when a white individual dehumanizes marginalized groups, it can lead into support for white nationalist ideologies. However, this can partly be accounted for due to their feelings of deservedness because of their associated racial group. When we run the same process mediation model to look at discriminatory policies, we do see a similar pattern occurring in which dehumanization has a positive relation to support for discriminatory policies. And when we mediate this effect by racial entitlement, we once again see a partial mediation occurring. So this tells us that a white individual, when they dehumanize marginalized groups, then this can lead into support for discriminatory policies and thus can be partly accounted for due to their feelings of deservedness or entitlement because of their associated racial group. So overall, findings